Looks like most of us are here. We're missing John Mesa and Michael. The rest are in attendance. The first order of business is the approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Do I have a motion regarding the regular meeting minutes of July 22nd?
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from July 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. As for the meeting minutes of the special called meeting of August 19th, has everyone had a chance to review those?
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes, the special called meeting from August 19, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Chair's report is relatively short tonight. Really, the main thing I just wanted to update the DDA on is the Chamblee City Center project. The developer anticipates submitting their DCI, Development of Community Impact. That's based on the size of the development, that is the full package that gets submitted. They're anticipating submitting that by September 4th. Based on that, if it stays on schedule, then it would go before the Design Review Board on the 1st of October. It would make the City Council work session on the 13th of November and the City Council meeting on the 18th of November. So assuming things progress, it's entirely possible that there will be a need for them to sit out for a little while they work out some details. That would not be uncommon, but it's progressing. So Ashley, you have anything to add, or?
No, you pretty much covered it. The developers have been meeting with our planning staff to make sure they have everything squared away for the DCI application, so that is moving forward.
I understand they've been meeting with council as well, so they've been working on getting input. So I'm anticipating a great project with that. That's all we have for the chair's report. Financial report, anything to add on that, Jonathan?
No, just a pretty standard month, last month. If anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we're all good from a financial perspective.
Okay. We have nothing on our old business. For new business, we've got the Chamblee Dunwoody Roundabout project. Ashley, do you want to tee this up?
Yeah, so as you may or may not be familiar with, the city is undergoing what we're calling the Chamblee Dunwoody Roundabout project. So it will be bringing upon roundabouts in order to ease traffic and bring upon pedestrian improvements and all that kind of stuff. We do have Matt Dunnigan here with Kimley Horn to kind of talk a little bit about specifically how this would affect the DDA property at 5442 Peachtree Road. So I'll kick it off to Matt to give more details.
Thank you, Ashley. So as you see on the screen, there's a roundabout proposed for the intersection of American Way and Chamblee Dunwoody Road that will impact the property. The area in red is proposed right-of-way, and the area in blue would be temporary easements.
Just to clarify so everybody's tracking this impacts what we call the Vintage Pizza parking property. And so this is the lower area of the parking lot, sort of below the Vintage Pizza building, that condo building, just to put everybody in some context. Go ahead, I apologize.
No, thank you very much. Yes, that's correct. So it affects that lower area. It will impact, I think, 14 to 15 parking spaces. By the way, we're laying out right now. There may be a way to reconfigure that area, especially once some buildings are gone. That may help with that, and potentially try to shuffle the parking around and not lose as many spaces. But this is the easement the city, I guess the right of way the city's requesting for the DDA to consider in the like I said, temporary easement there in blue to construct this. This is an intersection that the city's wanted to apply some safety improvements to for quite a while now. It's kind of a weird intersection if you're coming from American Way south to, or I guess north and you're crossing over, it's a very hard intersection to see. There's been a lot of accidents, a lot of near misses there, so we think this project will really help improve the safety and the traffic flow in that area. And there'll be another roundabout on the other side of Peachtree Road at the new Peachtree Chamblee Dunwoody intersection as well. So, and this will kind of, these two will tie together. It'll be condensed down to 2 lanes in between, wide 12-foot shared use paths in between as well. So it'll create a very pedestrian-friendly corridor to increase, hopefully, bridge over to the other side, on the other side of Peachtree Road, under the underpass, to expand to new areas of Chamblee. Do you guys have any questions about the project?
I was just going to add a couple things. One, just for everyone's context, and I think if I read this correctly, it's about 2/10 of an acre that will be taken or
Yes.
by which our property will be reduced.
Yeah, it's 8,667 acres of right-of-way and then 1,900 square feet of temporary easement. Yeah, so 8,667 of square feet. Yeah.
And that works out to about 10% of that property. Just, again, for putting context, it's not an
Yeah.
insignificant area. I think one of the things that we will need to do is look at the impact of parking relative to our lease agreement with Wings Up, to ensure that we're still able to provide the parking that, for which we have contracted, or for which they have contracted with us, just to ensure that we can meet our obligations in that area, or if not, look at other measures.
What was the parking amount, or the loss? How many spots?
It's about 14 to 15 spaces, a little hard to tell with the striping out there. But yeah, we can try to nail that down exactly for you.
Yeah, if possible. I mean, just look
Yeah.
at an alternate layout for the DDA property within that area, just to see what we should be able to fit. I know, we'll be talking later on about, the adjacent property and some potential breakthroughs in agreements to look at taking down our building. But just for interim, we'll need to proceed as if. What's the construction timeline on this?
So we're trying to get through this easement phase. We're also working through some utility relocations right now with Georgia Power and AGL. Kind of waiting on some timeframes from them, but hopefully in the next 6 months, we look to break ground, and then would be about a 10-month construction period.
Having just survived the last roundabout, because I live right past that, so it's been a special time.
Yeah.
I think that project lasted about 2 years, and I'm
Yeah.
guessing that was a utility issue, but that was
That
never
was,
really.
yeah, thanks to our friends at Georgia Power and AT&T. That's why we're not breaking ground before we get their
That's what I was
relocations
gonna
first this
ask.
time. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
thank
correct.
you.
Yeah. We've been working with them for almost 2 years on this project already, so.
And Ashley, you probably can answer the question, Matt, as well, from whomever can answer it. In this situation, the city will be compensating the DDA for the loss of the property at fair market value?
I believe Matt can answer that.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what the DDA is looking for, then I think we'll take that back to the city and let them know.
I think that's something that we probably ought to discuss with Kristen to see how that lays out. I mean, I think we're more than happy to work with the city, but, we have limited assets, so. Again, I think that's something that the DDA will need
Yeah.
to discuss with the city, just to make sure. I mean,
Yeah, I think we need to maybe loop in Dan too. I don't know if we are kind of getting in the gratuities clause area,
Sure.
but that's something the city will obviously.
No, I
know
think
about.
that's an excellent question to ask Dan. So I think that's a good point, just to see where the law or precedence lies in that matter. Do we have any other questions at this time? I don't think that we really need an action tonight, is that correct?
That's correct. There's more to inform you of the project, and like I said, I knew you'd want to probably follow up with Kristen.
Yeah. And I don't mean to keep you longer than tonight, but I think we've got some follow-up discussions, hopefully, after we have some consensus from this meeting as far as the building next door that
Okay.
we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Getting a proposal for what the demolition in that process might be, so.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the tax incentive application for the Fraser, and we have the applicant with us tonight.
Thank you for having me here. It's been an interesting journey to get here. We've been working with you guys on this since 2020, but we have been able to assemble what we think a fantastic development team and a fantastic development plan. So the Fraser is 315 units. It composed of 4 parcels of land. We initially went under contract and bought from the DDA back in 2020, 2021 timeframe, 3553 and 3543 Chamblee Dunwoody Road. And we had a much smaller project, and because of costs and things that were going on in the world from an inflation standpoint, it made it almost impossible to start construction for what our original plan was. We didn't have a lot of land. We had 1.36 acres. We fast forward to 2023, and the folks at Chatham Auto Repair, or the auto repair shop, who's engaged in litigation with the city, finally decided to sell, and they approached us through another buyer, and we bought it. And we were able to put that 0.47 acres together, and getting closer to 2 acres. And as we begin to work on our business plan for our new development, the owner of 3527 Chamblee Dunwoody Road approached us and said, hey, would you buy our 0.27 acres? And the incremental cost was not a whole lot different, but the value to the project and to the city, I think, was astronomical, and so we entered into contract for that. What we have is, I can show you the parcels in which we've assembled, and it is a very, very tight site. It's 2.07 acres with a huge topography drop-off from Chamblee Dunwoody from 3553 down to 3527, and another tremendous drop-off from the topography from all of the buildings that are facing American Way right behind us. Although those are the topographical challenges, it sits in a really, really key location inside of the city in your downtown development plan, in the sense that you have the Lumina, I think, which is across the street from us, and then behind us you have the Chamblee Heights, which is doing well. We have agreed, and I put on here, to perform and put in our section of the rail trail. And we will have the rail trail, which we would think that will be a great amenity for our neighbors on both sides of us, that they can come over and walk and kind of make some connectivity. We have also agreed in the development to have retail, but restaurant-focused retail, and our ceiling heights on that is 20 feet high based upon where we are. I do want to tell you, we have gone before the Design Review Board, and we have gotten their recommendations. They liked a lot of what we had. They had 2 adverse recommendations. One was they didn't want our sign, but we want to work collaboratively with the sign. And another is our units are a little small to get our yield up. We're asking to be a participant because we really believe in socially sustainable communities. We believe in environmentally sustainable communities, and then they have to be economically sustainable. So from a social standpoint, we would like to be your test case and have 20% of the units be affordable to people making 80% AMI in the area, and what we think is kind of true workforce housing, with a focus on teachers, first responders, police, fire, EMS, and folks who work at the city. Give them an opportunity to walk to work. And we think that these units will be affordable to people making between $40,000 and $50,000 a year. I mean, it seems like a lot of money to me now, but it's tough to live in Atlanta where the median income now is approaching $140,000 a year. And so that is one request that we're made inside of our application. The other request that we're making is because we have such a tight site and we would like to be environmentally sustainable, we're asking for some support on the parking deck. This was a very, very expensive parking deck. It is a 3-level parking deck, and I'll show this to you here. It is a 3-level parking deck. And to park 336 cars, I believe, and we have 1 car per unit, not 1 car per bedroom. And so we take advantage of the MARTA station downtown and have people work and live and walk to work is our goal. We have also added additional electrical vehicle charging stations to be environmentally friendly also. We will also make the building Earthcraft certified by Southface. So we are trying to be environmentally sustainable. And then finally, we would like to work collaboratively with the staff of economic development and with you guys to create an iconic sign for downtown Chamblee. There's been a suggestion that Chamblee doesn't have a downtown. Well, from what I've seen at the events that were held here this summer, there are a lot of people walking downtown now, and we think that this sign will be roughly 100 feet in the air, and that it could be seen from Peachtree Boulevard. So those are our requests, and I'm willing to take any questions about any right now, and hopefully we'll be back in next month for a bond inducement.
Questions?
Has, having only 1 parking space per unit, to me, that doesn't seem like it would be enough. But is there demand for that? In other words, have other projects worked that out, where you're going to have good occupancy?
So as I stated to you, Mike, we're under construction in the West Side Beltline, right off of the West Side Beltline connector, and for 148 units with about 10,000 square feet of retail. And we are at 166 parking spaces. So we have 1 parking space per unit again, and the rest belong to the retail. What we are finding in that market, we're still under construction, is that Georgia Tech has Science Square, a 7-minute bike ride from where we are. And Georgia Tech is 10 minutes away from the campus. Coca-Cola is a 7-minute bike ride on the Beltline. And quite frankly, my office is at Ponce City Market and on the East Side Beltline. And we're just seeing that people are walking a lot. And I don't know if you've known this or not, but we even have driverless cars riding around that area, the way Uber cars are there. So I think that the next generation will not be as car dependent that you own. And quite frankly, the biggest cost, is the underutilization of these parking spaces. And it just costs so much money to build a parking in a 2-acre site. If we had a 5-acre site or a 20-acre site, we could park it with surface parking or a Texas wrap or something that would be less cost. It would be less costly. But in an urban area, we have to really manage the parking. I was just talking with Matt, who was just here, and they've created a whole parking division inside of Kimberly Horn. And they moved that parking division, believe it or not, to the trackside at Chamblee across the street from the MARTA station. It's by no mistake that that's going on because development deals have stalled because of the cost of parking.
Have you looked at parking demand management strategies like leasing the parking separately from the units or, other ways to look at disconnecting the parking from the units?
We are very open to that. In fact, that's what me and Matt were talking about, is to kind of look at some strategies and to generate more revenue. Believe it or not, we have looked at how other apartment buildings are charging for parking in Chamblee, and it's between $25 to $50 to $75, depending on if it is a reserved parking space versus just a parking fee, to try to recoup some of that cost. But I can see a business model in which you can rent your parking space.
Well, I mean, from my standpoint as a planner, it always seems like a good way to reward tenants who might not own a car. Otherwise they have to pay for a parking space effectively that they're not using if it's bundled into the rent. But if it's divorced from the rent, then you're much more likely to get tenants who don't use a car. And this is a great location to be a tenant that might not have a car.
Well, we have done that in the past, Chairman Ray. What we've done is that if you don't have a car, you don't get a parking detail, and you don't have to pay that on your miscellaneous revenue on your rent.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
I will say randomly, I just attended a conference where we were talking about marketing to different generations, and these 16 to 28-year-olds across the country, there's a 30% decrease in driver's licenses. So I do think if we're thinking future, there is a great likelihood that fewer drivers are in our future.
It's
And
because they're living at home and mom and dad are driving.
I didn't say why. I didn't dig into that. But if they're going to be big boys and girls and get their own apartment, then it's. I just think it's if it is in an area which this is where there is a level of walkability, and I mean, ideally there would be a grocery store within walking distance and
There
things like
is.
that. Right.
There's two of them.
So we're in good shape there. Is my point. Like I think this is a good location in that way that I wouldn't be as concerned about the parking situation in this case.
How much square footage are you allocating to the retail, the restaurant?
Right now, because we had to do a supplemental zone for the rail trail, we had to decrease it because the supplemental zone is pretty big. It's 15 feet from the rail trail to the building. We had to reduce it down to 6,500. We wanted a 10,000, but 6,500. And we're willing to make all 6,500 of that restaurant space because I committed to that number before.
How many parking spaces would that demand?
Well, we're praying for, and by the way, Cooper Carey, who's our architect, is the same group who did several buildings on the Beltline, including 725, the 725 building that has a Kroger in it, and McKinsey and BlackRock. And so we're only looking at having, just around 20 parking spaces, which is consistent with what we have in our building on the West Side Beltline. What our thought is to work with Steve Chang and the folks at the daycare next door, and to do valet parking with those guys, and for the restaurants, and that way they have access capacity at night. And Steve and I have talked about this in the past, and he's facilitated a meeting with the daycare owner who has the lease, and it would be a way for them to get a little cash, and it would be additional parking. But what we really are interested in is that energy at night, where people are walking from Chamblee Heights and Vintage Pizza and the Lumina and is it Moon? Yeah, Moondog. No, not the Moondog. What's the one next? Shadow. It's the one next to Lumina. About American Way.
Southbound?
Southbound. Southbound. We're interested in having people just kind of walk around there and just kind of. The roundabout is a great addition. I mean, it slows traffic down. It makes we want people to walk. I heard that like 4,000 people walked to the July 4th celebration. We want that energy.
Other questions? I've got a few, but I just wanted to defer to the board to make sure that they've gotten their questions. One of the things that I'm struggling with is the size of the incentive request, $25 million. Based on the DDA's tax incentive strategy for the affordable housing units, that works out to about $14 million and change based on that. And so from my standpoint, that's easy, great. Let's move on. It's the, 10, almost $11 million in the remainder of the request that I struggle with. For the environmental sustainability and the public infrastructure, I believe all of those, or both of those, are required by Chamblee's code. So that's not necessarily something you're doing beyond the requirements, is that correct?
Well, actually, yes, we are going beyond the requirements. We are adding more EV stations, electrical vehicle charging stations in the building than that was required. The Earthcraft certification is one thing. We're adding a whole level of energy efficiency in using the Google technology inside of the building as it relates to automation of the HVAC system. But we'll just put that aside. The real issue for us is this site is part of the downtown development plan for Chamblee. It has been an eyesore and a contentious site for a lot of years. Unless we're able to get the stuff behind us, the distribution, and I don't need to say unless they want to sell or whatever, it is almost impossible to build and park a less expensive parking system. We're simply constrained on the type of redevelopment based upon the land, and that parking system happens to be the most expensive. So I was on the phone with capital partners. One was J.P. Morgan today, and the other was PGIM today, and they said, well, Podium looks tough, but we'll consider it because of the tax abatement. And so the way they're looking at it, and I'll just be transparent, Our latest numbers from CBG, who's our contractor, and putting the whole deal together is about $350,000 per unit. What that does is that most equity partners and most debt partners, they work off of a couple of metrics, and it's not the internal rate of return, it's the yield on cost, and it is debt yield. And they want those two numbers to be, you know, in a range so they can get it through their credit committee and their investment committee. And there's not a building in Chamblee as tall as this, so we anticipate the units on floors 6, 7, and 8 will have some premium compared to the Manor or to the other locations, so that's a benefit. But they would not invest with us in there if there was no way to reduce down that potential cost of the building, that unit cost for the building, and that's why we're asking for that $25 million tax abatement in net present value dollars.
Okay. I understand. We're anticipating having the economic analysis for this project within a couple weeks, so we should have a couple weeks to review it prior to our next meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, and I've spoken with Rod about this, about basically since, you know, we haven't done this in a few years, so there was an increase in the price of the economic development fiscal impact analysis, and that's kind of where we were waiting on. I did bring your check, if you have the updated check.
Yeah.
And so literally we'll get that ordered tomorrow and try to get that expedited as much as possible. You know, did want to point out that you are going in front of the city council in September, so that would be roughly a week before the next DDA meeting. So assuming everything, you know, nothing changes from that point, you know, you can continue on that path, but if anything changes, that might delay the process as far as the DDA tax incentive, and that's assuming you all are on the consensus of wanting to move forward to the next step. There was no action needed tonight from the DDA, but it's more if you all have the consensus to continue wanting the DDA attorney to start drafting the documents, and then also, you know, evaluating the fiscal impact analysis whenever we get that.
And I think that's where we're going to have a really challenge, you know, until we can see the, you know, fiscal impacts to really look at it, to have some conversations about the size of the incentive that we're comfortable discussing. From my standpoint, I'm not at 25, you know. I'm at something that's probably significantly less than that. But it may very well be that the fiscal impact analysis will show some additional information that will help get me a little bit further. I mean, again, I'm speaking for myself, but I can see that we may not be able to approve the initial bond resolution next month. I mean, that's just, there's a lot of things to be done between here and then, as far as having Dan draft the MOU, having, you know, figuring out what the DDA is comfortable with, you know, before we can really pass that bond. So I'm interested in what we can do. It's not saying that if the timetable is really tight, perhaps there's a special called meeting someplace, you know, after our September meeting. I'm just acknowledging that there's some additional information that I think that we'll need to see before we really can make an informed decision.
Yeah, and we would, well, I think we provided your team with all of our financials as it relates to this. And again, it's, for us, it's kind of math. And the math is that we have some information from the contractors where the pricing is, and deals have not been penciling for the last 2 years, and
I understand. I mean, I absolutely appreciate how hard this site is. It's got some hair on it that is hard to overcome. It's got some challenges. You're certainly not going to be able to get any on-street parking until we can convince, Kimley Horn to do a street diet for Chamblee Dunwoody, along the way, I think. But, so I'm not insensitive to the challenges that you face. It's just, I look at it, a $25 million abatement on a project that is $118 million
Yeah.
Is that number sticking in my head?
Yeah.
That's a rather significant incentive.
Yeah, and so how we looked at it is that we did a chart, and we looked at, and I should give you that chart. We project that this site next year will generate a little south of $40,000 for all 4 parcels. And we looked at, even with that massive tax abatement that we're talking about, at stabilized, the site will, with the tax abatement, will generate $350,000 the first year. And so the opportunity cost is, do we continue to let it sit there and not be productive? And I will tell you, Lord have mercy, first thing I ever did was bought site that 3535 because I had urban campers. And it was really an eyesore, and I would get calls from the police department at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning about it. And so the opportunity cost is, are we going to take $40,000 in taxes until the market opens up, or are we going to go now and be able to generate $350,000 in 2 years?
Any other discussion from the remainder of the board? Questions while we have Rod with us tonight? Thank you very much. I think you've got a great project, and hopefully we can find a place that we can help support it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the First Amendment to the Purchase and Sale Agreement with Greystar Development East LLC. What this amendment is basically an extension of the due diligence period for them. They've found some things as they were doing their due diligence. There was an issue with the survey and a potential easement for the railroad that I think that they have determined that in fact that easement had been released, so that easement is no longer an issue. There's still some environmental issues that they're trying to determine exactly what's out there and what does it mean from an environmental standpoint. So really, I had agreed that I thought that it was reasonable to provide that extension, but what we need is the remainder of the DDA to consent to that. Discussion, questions that I might be able to answer? Okay. I think we have a draft motion in your packet. If somebody would like to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve, authorize, ratify, and confirm the entry of the DDA into the First Amendment to the Agreement for Purchase and Sale of Real Estate between the DDA as seller and Greystar Development East LLC as purchaser, and authorize the chair to execute related documents.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Item D is the approving resolution for the City of Chamblee financing request. I think Ashley's got the full detail on this, but just a little bit of background. We are looking at financing options for the purchase of the Pierce parcels. One of the options would be a loan backed by the City of Chamblee. And this resolution, I believe, would support that intergovernmental agreement between the DDA and the city, but I think Ashley actually understands the details far beyond I do.
Yeah, so, essentially what Brian said, what this resolution, all it essentially does is the first step, if the DDA does want to move forward with having the city back alone, and this first step is essentially just approving a resolution in order for the DDA to ask the city to enter into an intergovernmental agreement. Assuming this is approved tonight, that would be the first step. If the DDA decides to go down that path, the next step would be negotiating the terms of an IGA and getting that approved on both the city and the DDA side. And then no matter which direction you all go, whether it's this city-backed or a non-city-backed loan, the loan documents will need to be approved by the DDA. So hopefully that kind of explains this. But this is, again, just a very, very first step, and also hopefully getting that all this squared away in the timeline by December 15th.
Just to remind everybody, we are under, the terms of our purchase and sale agreement for that property are such that we need to close by the 15th of December. So we've got a little bit of time. It's not like it's immediate. We do need to be acting on this. We've gotten terms from what used to be Piedmont Bank. It is now Community Bank Shares. Did I
United
get that
Bank.
right? What?
United Bank.
United
or
Bank.
United Bank shares, yes.
Okay, United Bank Shares. Damn it. We have gotten terms from United Bank Shares. We are going to be looking to request terms from a couple other banks as well, just to, I think United Bank Shares has provided, I keep thinking Piedmont, and I need, because we've done business with Piedmont for so many years, that it's now United Bank Shares. I think they've put together a very good term sheet for us for a loan that would be backed by solely the DDA and the properties that the DDA owns. We would pledge those as collateral. Hopefully, we would be able to use the survey and environmental information that we have on those properties currently and would not have to get additional information. We probably would need to get the properties that are being pledged appraised, and so there will be a cost associated with that. But I think we'll be able to discuss that more fully as we start identifying which route we want to go and identify a lender that we want to work with. But so again, what the purpose of this authorization is really to have it in our back pocket so that we can be working these two avenues, both solely the DDA and backed by the city of Chamblee in parallel, so that if we find that there's a significant advantage going one way or the other, that we're ready to start acting on that.
Would we discuss that in executive session, or would that be public to determine the course that we would choose?
That's up to us. I think we absolutely could discuss it in executive session if we wanted to. I don't know that there is significant, and again, this is where my inexperience, John probably has some greater experiences as far as, is there advantage to discussing it in executive session once we have more of those details versus discussing it in open session? But I think that's up to us.
Yeah, I'll just say, we are planning to go to executive session, I think, tonight.
We are planning on
So there
going
are
to,
some things about this transaction that I'd like to discuss in executive session.
okay, we can absolutely do that.
I think this is a really important step, though, to pass and run a parallel path. We have basically 3.5 months to close, and that's starting to look really tight right now. Another path that we might want to start considering is talking to Pierce and getting an extension. Typically, in a real estate transaction, you will pay for that extension, and it'll be basically a fee that you pay to them that's non-refundable, which is typically something they would accept because we're putting even more skin in the game and committing to closing. We just need more time. So it wouldn't be a significant fee typically, but it's something that would help us
It-
move that deadline.
It
maybe
did
a
seem
couple
like
months.
talking to our agent with Community Bank Shares that, no, United.
United Bankshares.
You're good at other things, it's okay.
We'll get him a tattoo.
She's, thinks that our schedule is very viable, but I think it depends upon how long we take investigating other options before we pull the trigger. I think, so you're right, I would rather not start talking to Larry about that just yet, but we may, that's probably a valid point.
And I did want to just reiterate, I know you all are aware, but approving this resolution tonight does not bind the DDA nor the city to anything at this point. It's literally just to start that request process, and whenever those terms are ready, that would be needing another vote. And discussing the negotiations can be done in an executive session.
Okay. We do have a draft resolution, or a draft motion, if somebody would like to make that.
Motion to authorize the approving resolution as presented to request of the City of Chamblee the execution, delivery, and performance of an intergovernmental agreement related to the bonds by and between the DDA and the city.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. So the next item on our agenda is the Economic Development Strategy Strategic Priorities Assessment. And while I understand what those words are, I believe that Ashley actually understands the details.
Yeah, so it's a long word, meaning essentially that the city is planning to undergo in 2026 an update to our economic development strategic plan. So the first time we've done one, and the most recent time we've done one, was in 2017. So the landscape of Chamblee and the economy as a whole has changed a lot since 2017. We've had COVID happen. We have a lot of economic changes happening in the present. So we really need to get that plan updated, both to be usable citywide, but also for my department as well. It's something that the city has been, talking about for a few years, but now that I'm onboarded, we're ready to kind of get that implemented, and we've been talking with Georgia Tech on that. We've discussed and decided instead of a full-blown strategic economic development plan, we would like to go a strategic priorities assessment route, which is essentially the same thing, but more streamlined, more usable for a city of our size. Decide DeKalb is actually undergoing their full-blown economic development plan, and that should be done within the next couple months. So, utilizing some of their information and not, double dipping and doing too much of duplicated efforts there. But it'll allow us, as a whole to figure out what the city's priorities are. So we're planning to do this assessment process with Georgia Tech starting in January 2026. But as it relates to the DDA, they're also going to be evaluating the tax incentive strategy, some of the efforts and things that the DDA has done. And we would also like to do a city council and DDA visioning session with Georgia Tech before the end of the year, kind of leading up to that process that's starting in January 2026. So tentatively, we're looking at sometime between October 6th and 17th. We're still polling the city council on that. But we're tentatively looking sometime there, looking at a weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. And again, that would be both with the entire DDA and the entire city council to kind of talk about economic development priorities, citywide, DDA specific, all that kind of stuff. And using that information will be used in the final assessment process that's going to be undergone next year. So I didn't know if you all had any questions. I will follow up for sure on dates. Those are just the tentative dates we're looking at, but I'll definitely send an email once I hear back from council on some dates and see what works for you all as well.
Questions for Ashley?
Will the DDA have an opportunity to sort of be involved in the process from January onward, or is it we're just part of the visioning and then we're given the results at the end?
I believe so, but I am still working out the proposal with Georgia Tech on how exactly that's going to look like. So right now they are evaluating basically all of the plans that the city has adopted, and again, like the tax incentive strategy that the DDA and city has adopted and all that kind of stuff. So they're basically evaluating all the work that we've done as a whole, and then basing their proposal off of that. So I anticipate there will be, I just don't have the specifics of that just yet.
And did they provide any kind of timeline of what that process looks like once it kicks off?
The estimate I was given was about a year, hopefully less since it's not a full-blown strategic plan. We do plan to budget for it in this upcoming budget cycle, which our budget falls from January to December. So we are planning for it to begin at the beginning of January.
Okay, thank you very much for that information, Ashley. Item F is the DDA property usage for the Chamblee Chalk Walk. And again, this is someplace where I believe Ashley has far more information than I do.
So essentially, this is just a request from the city to utilize some DDA properties for the Chamblee Chalk Walk event on September 20th. The reason you're seeing this now is because that list I sent you a few months ago did not include this event on there, so just wanted to basically do the administrative process and make sure you all are okay with it. Essentially, what their plan is to use a portion of 3519 Broad Street to park a bathroom trailer, and then using 2161 Irvindale Way for additional staff and vendor parking. There's nothing being used on either of those lots of those days. And then specifically for the day of the event, which is Saturday, September 20th, Broad Street will be closed down for the duration of the event. So, it shouldn't have any impact there. I know our staff that is leading that event have already notified all the businesses in the area, so they are aware of the event. And mainly, even though we are requesting use September 19th through 22nd, really the only thing that's going to be used is that where the bathroom trailer is throughout that entire time, just because Tanisha, who is leading this, is scheduling pickup, and sometimes they pick it up on Monday. So just to kind of give that buffer. They'll try to pick it up earlier, but at the latest, it would be Monday.
Okay, questions for Ashley regarding this event? Okay, we do have a draft motion in the packet, if somebody would care to make that.
Motion to approve City of Chamblee usage of 3519 Broad Street and 2161 Irvindale Way for the Chamblee Chalk Walk event from Friday, September 19th through Monday, September 22nd.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. That motion passes unanimously. Char Griller update. I have some fantastic news on this front. We've been trying to look at our options. This is a situation where, again, on our property that we refer to as the Vintage Pizza parking property, we've got a situation where one of the two buildings on our property extends onto the adjacent property by about 10 feet. And actually adjoins that other building. I don't believe that they're structurally interconnected, but having walked through the inside, I could see what appeared to be a sprinkler system and a gas line that do run between the two buildings. There's a former doorway that has been closed, but not. So in order to demolish the buildings on our property, as we'd previously discussed wanting to demolish the structures on that property as a way of making the property as shovel-ready as we can, for eventual sale and redevelopment. So the challenge has been looking for a way to gain the rights to demolish the portion of the building that lies on the adjacent property. So we've been struggling with that for a few years now. What the breakthrough has come working with our partners at Stream, who are assisting us with the city center project. One of their partners within Stream is actually a fraternity brother of the owner of the Char Griller property, and was able to set up a lunch meeting between me and that owner and a couple representatives from Stream. So it was a very nice meeting. The property owner is supportive of our interest in demolishing the building and perfectly willing to work with us. I think that we need to, my intent is to go out of our way to ensure that we minimize any impacts to his facilities and to his tenant as we go through this process, just to recognize his willingness to work with us. So I'd like to make it as easy for him as possible and ensure that we restore his facility to the best that we can throughout this process. So that's really where we're at. You know, he is amenable to the process. He's supportive of working with us. So really it's the matter of striking while the iron is hot. Two things that we're going to see proposals on in the near future. I think this relates to the first. I do not have a proposal yet, but we will be needing to engage the services of an attorney to draft a construction license or a construction easement to allow us to be working on the adjacent property owner. And so I would like to start working with the same attorneys that we've been working with on a lot of our other property issues. So what I would like, and again, I have dropped the name of the firm, and in fact, it is, well, it's the firm that just.
Ruda, Papera, Hoffman,
Yes.
one more name, I can't remember, but yeah.
No, I don't think Jesse Cobb is a named partner, but
Yeah, Cobb is not a named partner.
it's that firm.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fee for that will be. You know, it may be $20,000.
It shouldn't be that much.
It shouldn't be significant, but what I would like is to authorize the chair to negotiate a fee for the delivery of those legal services. Questions?
I make a motion to allow the chair to get into a discussion with the attorneys for figuring out how we can move forward with the demolition of the Vintage Pizza property building.
We do have a motion. I would like to suggest an amendment to authorize the chair to engage the attorneys to sign a proposal
I
for
agree
those
to that.
services. Okay? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. That's
Can-
all we have on
Hey,
new.
sorry, can you reiterate what that motion was, just for my benefit?
I will, what it would be is a motion to authorize the chair to negotiate and engage legal services with Ruda,
Ruda, Hoffman,
Bruda,
Papera.
Hirschfeld, Papera, and Hoffman.
Hirschfeld, there you go.
I guess what I'm trying to clarify is there was wording on get into a discussion, engage, and then also negotiate fees. So I wanted to clarify on what the actual motion was, if the DDA
I think
is
the intent was
approving-
for all three of those.
Okay,
When I say engaged, to me, that means signing, but I think clarifying that is probably appropriate.
okay. I think you all should probably do another motion and clarify
All right.
exactly what you want to say.
Motion to engage, or to discuss, engage, and authorize the chair to sign an agreement with the attorneys regarding the construction easement services with the adjacent property owner. Did I capture it?
That sounds exactly right.
Okay.
Okay,
And we do have a second. Does that second still stand?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? That motion carries unanimously. Okay. Thank you for keeping us on the straight and narrow, Ashley. That is all that we have for new business. Seeing no public in attendance tonight, we will not have public comments. We do have need for an executive session tonight to discuss matters relating to the purchase and sale of properties.
Make a motion to enter an executive session to discuss real estate matters.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, we are back from our executive session.
I'd like to make a motion to exit executive session.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.